Hey, gang, this episode of WTF is sponsored by Stamps.com. Go to Stamps.com and type in WTF when you click the radio microphone to start a no-risk trial and get a $110 bonus offer. That's Stamps.com. Enter WTF. Do it up.
Lock the gate!
All right, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers? What the fuck buddies? What the fucking ears? What the fuck nicks? What the fuckadelics? What the fucking nucks? Sometimes I feel good about saying those things. Sometimes I feel like they're silly. But other times I realize it is what we do here. Today on the show, Lou Barlow, the other half of Dinosaur Jr. and the front man, the man behind Sebadoh, is on the show. A very earnest, intense conversation, some good music at the end. We get into the Jay Mascis, Lou Barlow relationship a little bit, as some of you know, or you people who are deep in the WTF rabbit hole, or at least deep into the music ones. Remember that, Jay Mascis and I talked a little bit about that. Jay Mascis, and it's interesting, man. It is interesting to hear the other side of it, to hear when I heard him play. Look, I've listened to Dinosaur Jr., I've listened to Sebadoh in my life, but obviously before I talked to each of these guys, I filled my head back up with the music, went through the entire Sebadoh catalog to prepare my brain to engage with Lou. And, I'll tell you, man, Dinosaur Jr., equal parts. Gotta say, love you, Jay, but equal parts, it seems. I don't know. Look, who the hell knows about relationships? Who the fuck knows how those work, how they deteriorate, how the tension begins, really, how it is upheld, how it is transcended? I don't. Look, I think this is the first time I've been alone and not out of my mind on something or somebody in a long time. Obviously, a different kind of relationship. I'm transitioning a bit. Look, before I forget, if you didn't check in on Thanksgiving, we put an episode up with John Heffron. It's a great episode, especially if you're a comic or want to listen to some comics talk shop for about a half hour. I didn't realize how much we got into it, but I don't think there's been a conversation quite like that on my show. So go pick up that John Heffron episode if you missed it. We dropped it on Thanksgiving. Also, I'd like to mention that Will Ferrell will be on the show next Monday, which is our 450th episode. Will Ferrell on Monday. Very candid chat with probably the funniest man in the world. Probably the funniest man in the world. It was insane sitting there talking to him. Because he's just, he's a guy. Pretty low-key guy, as a matter of fact. Sweet guy. But, you're sitting across from Will Ferrell, and I just got this dumb smirk on my whole face. My whole face was smirking. Like something funny's about to happen any second. It's going to happen right out of his head. That guy, Will Ferrell, is going to make me laugh. That happened a few times, but we also had a very nice conversation. I will tell you that. Hold on. Pow! Look out. Just shit my pants. JustCoffee.coop, available at WTFpod.com. Haven't done one of those in a while. It's a classic. Did I just call myself classic? I have no idea what my computer does. I have no idea. I know I barely use it for anything, but I have no idea how it works. I don't know your life, but I am beholden to the person that knows how to fucking fix my goddamn computer. I will panic at anything. And it's weird that we live in a time where you need a computer guy, and you need to find somebody, you need to, trust a guy, because they can look at everything about you. Like, literally, this dude that I have, this guy, Jeremy Falk, Mac Man, the Mac Man. You can, if you're in Los Angeles area, you can go to MacManNow.com, and Jeremy's he's a Mac wizard. But now I know he also knows everything about me. This is how weird the culture we live in is that there's a certain amount of transparency that you can't avoid. Like on Twitter and stuff. All right, I'm on Twitter, but that doesn't mean I need people tweeting when they see me at a restaurant and they say like, hey, I saw Marc Maron, I didn't talk to him, but here he is sitting by himself at Cantor's. Look, maybe when I'm alone at Cantor's on a fucking Friday night by myself eating cabbage soup and a half a sandwich, perhaps that's alone time. You think maybe that's alone time? I'm glad you noticed me and you thought maybe you could come talk to me. You probably could have. But, sometimes, look, I wasn't out wearing chaps somewhere, hanging from a harness, or doing something sordid and something that I'm hiding from the world. But I was eating cabbage soup and having a half a sandwich at Canner's in a booth by myself. And, on some levels, that's equally as embarrassing. There's such transparency because it's very easy for people to know a lot about you if you're out in the world with social network or anything else, and you just sort of have to gauge, well, what am I hiding? Nothing too embarrassing. But anyways, I do have a guy. You got to have a guy. You got to have a computer guy. How are you going to get by without your guy? Jeremy Falk, the Mac man, is my guy, and he's available. I told him I'd tell you. All right? I told him I'd tell you. A few people use him, a few people of my ilk. Hold on, maybe I should do the other thing. Should I do the other thing now? Can I? Because it is the holiday season, and they're all about to happen. And quite frankly, you don't have time to go to the post office. It would be packed with everyone making holiday gifts and packages, not to mention running the risk of hitting traffic when you go there or trying to find a parking space once you get there. So do what I do, and you know what I do. Use Stamps.com instead, folks. With Stamps.com, you can avoid all the hassle of going to the post office during the holidays. Everything you would do at the post office, you can do right from your desk. Buy and print official U.S. postage using your own computer and printer. Print postage for any letter or package the instant you need it. Then the mailman picks it up. You just give it to him. There aren't a lot of things that are this easy and convenient during the holiday seasons. I have a lot of holiday orders to send out, so I'm glad I can use Stamps.com and save myself time and money. As always, there's a special offer when you use my promo code WTF. Start a no-risk trial with a $110 bonus offer that includes a digital scale and up to $55 free postage. Don't wait, my friends. Go to Stamps.com. Before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in WTF. That's Stamps.com. Enter WTF. You can use it for anything, by the way. If you're just selling shit in your house you need to send out, you can. Look, it's a good thing. That, enough said, and I've said it enough. So here's the deal. It's amazing when you are alone and you're not acting out too much in doing whatever you do, whether it be ice cream, porn, just sitting around watching television. If you're a drug person, the drinking, whatever. But if you sort of limit whatever it is that you're doing to avoid yourself and you just sit with yourself, it turns out I think it feels like emotionally, if I'm going to be honest with myself, I'm probably 14. And I think that's up a few years from the last time I might have said something like that. So I am growing up, but I'm still a little nervous. Puberty is tough. And, feeling confident in the world is fucking ridiculous. I'm a grown-ass man, does a lot of shit inside, just a fucking child sometimes. No surprises there. So I guess leading up to what I was about to say, my dad's birthday was on the 30th, and as some of you know, because you listen to me, I have not talked to my father in probably almost a year, because he was upset with me, and I was not feeling bad about that. He was upset with the portrayal of him on the show, which I thought was maybe not completely flattering, at least humorous and honest, and not damning in any way. I think it was endearing. And in my mind, I sort of went easy on him, but he was upset. But I just decided I didn't want to deal with my father. I just didn't want to deal with him. And it's it's a weird thing. It's a painful thing because you get to a certain age and you're like, am I really doing that? I'm not going to talk to my dad. Look, he's got problems. I got problems. We got problems. Whatever. He's an old fucking man. He just turned 75. That's not, that's old. He's my old dad. And I'm not talking to him. Then you start to think, well, what if I die? Or what if he dies and we're left with this thing? Did you get to talk to your dad before he left? Did he get to talk to you before you went? I guess no one would be asking you that because you'd be dead. But you don't want to be one of those people that's like, no, we weren't talking, and live with that. But also, what's the big deal after a certain point? I mean, what's the fight you're fighting? I mean, for fuck's sake. I've always said that on some level, and I've said this before, a father and son relationship is really just on some deep level, it's a battle to the death. I know that's cynical and maybe dramatic, maybe a bit poetic, but I think it's true. So I call my father, and I just chose to go in with happy birthday. How you doing? He happened to be in a relatively chipper mood, and we had a nice discussion. He talked for about 15 minutes about how he's given up on his system to win the lottery after hours of research. Clearly time well spent. So, that's what my dad does. And I just sort of focused in on all right, and he's like going on and on about the lottery and how he had a plan to win it. But he's given up on that plan. And I noticed in his cadence and in the way he frames things that, he is sort of a master of kind of just going on and on. And, I think I have that. I think I have that gene, as is indicated by what's happening right now. But, he told me that he was upset about this and about the TV show and everything. And, it was a little passive-aggressive and a little weird and manipulative. But he's my dad. And you know what? Ultimately, you get to a certain age where it's like, what are you fighting? Just like it is, he is what he is. And quite frankly, I think I won. We don't know who's going to die first, but ultimately there's no fight anymore. There's there's nothing to fight about anymore. I prepared mentally. I reinforced my boundaries. did some buttressing, some spackling, and I said, all right, I'm going to get on the phone with this guy, and I'm not going to become a child. I'm not going to let him get to me. He's not going to get in there and make me feel like shit. I got my armor on. Let's go. I'm ready for battle. And then it was just a conversation with an old guy who happens to be my dad. All right, let's talk to Lou Barlow. What do you record on now? Do you record on GarageBand?
No, I got Pro Tools, I guess.
You do?
I bought the very first commercially available, for the everyman, layman's
right.
Pro Tools in I think 99 or 2000 I bought it.
So you had that's a big thing to learn, right?
Yeah, I'd watched over the shoulder of many engineers doing it
over the time.
Yeah,
in the history of your 90 record career, how many?
Yeah.
This is one of those things where Lou Barlow wants to talk and do the show, and I'm like, and then I start looking. It's like, I like Sebado, and I listen to a couple of the solo things, and then but he's done 900 records. Yeah. Where did he find time to do the 900 records?
That's easy.
Yeah,
it just accumulates. I don't really know how it happens.
How old are you now?
I'm 40. I just turned 47 a couple of days ago.
So you lost 4 cats?
Yeah,
and you have no idea. Were they all?
I know one got bit by a raccoon, but he had 3 legs. He got hit by a car, had 3 legs, but he just loved going outside so much we couldn't refuse it.
And it was over in Silver Lake?
Yep.
And the other 3 just mysteriously?
They all mysteriously disappeared. But we also had a baby around the same time, so it was almost like they were just like, when they saw the baby, like, fuck it.
Yeah,
we're the babies around here.
We're not going to get the attention we deserve. Yeah. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
I've been listening to the older records.
Okay.
The Sebado records, and this is the first one in years, right?
Yeah, they say 14 years.
And what do you say?
I don't know. I don't count. The last one was 99, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Just after I moved here, I did a record, and we didn't do any until we put out an EP last year. So.
And who's the lineup? Is it the original lineup? Or
it's not original. It's me and Jason Lowenstein, who are original.
Right.
And then we've had a few drummers over the years.
But who is it, Eric Gaffney?
Yeah, he and I were sort of the originators of the band, and then Jason joined shortly after that I think Jason was 15.
Yeah.
When he joined the band.
What happened with Eric Gaffney?
Well, Eric is he's one of the most inspiring figures in my life.
Yeah.
When I met him, we were really into hardcore punk rock.
Right.
And he really liked my band Deep Wound that I had with Jay Mascis, and
Jay was drummer of that.
Yep.
And that was just straight up pounding punk rock.
Super fast, blurry,
But how old were you when you were in that band? You were a kid, right?
15, 16.
It's just what's interesting when I listen to Deep Wound now is that
you listened to it.
I did. I listened to it a little bit.
Cool.
But there's the thing that came out of punk rock, and I think there's something that you and Jay sort of kind of invented, was there's a sonic quality that sort of rides out. Not the beat or the pace or the screaming,
right,
but a breaking apart that continues through all of it, through whatever they call lo-fi or anything else. There's an edge of chaos that is a lot more melodic as things goes on, but it seems like if you really especially if you listen to punk rock on a shitty speaker, you're like, that is what kind of evolved into a sound that was not punk rock. Can you see that?
Kind of? Yeah, well, no, that hardcore punk rock, what I liked about it was that all the bands sounded different, and there was a totally collapsing part of it,
Right.
where it was falling apart. Actually, you're sort of describing it in a really good way, because a lot of this stuff became very militant and very structured,
Right.
and it became like right now what people describe as punk rock and what they play is very structured, and it's
Right.
very, to me, it's kind of straight and kind of
Right. There's
very, like regimented, and people have, this is the way I think, and I love this, and I love, and but what I really loved about it was the pure chaos of it, because
Right.
you had like, stuff like Black Flag, and then something like the Meat Puppets, who were truly crazy, and Flipper, this band from
Right, I
San
remember
Francisco,
them.
who were
Yeah.
just like
Nuts.
like just where the guitar was just this rolling crazy mass of just you couldn't pick anything out of it, and they were just really nihilistic, but at the same time like almost like the most human sort of. There was such a humanity to it at the same time.
It was raw.
And beautiful,
because out of that weird nihilism and that chaos, it's like it's almost like. I mean, it may not be a good comparison, but only like when you like watch Iggy Pop early on, or you even watch him now.
Yeah.
There's something severely human and quite disturbing about whatever the fuck he's doing up there,
Yeah.
just physically.
Yeah.
And I think that punk, with all the noise, there were still guys beating the shit out of themselves and their instruments, and there's nothing more human than beating the shit out of yourself.
It's true. I mean, but you're right though. The chaos of that. I mean, that is something that I think I took that part and then carried it on to, other pursuits. 'Cause
Right.
punk rock to me, like I said, it just got a little.
Well, also,
safe.
it seems like punk rock also became almost like metal in its mathematics.
Totally.
That there was like
there was a real split, because like we had, in Deep Wound, it was Jay and I, and then we had our bass player Scott, and Scott joined like a speed metal band. Like he got really
Right.
into because Metallica's early cassettes were floating around.
Right.
And half the kids who were into hardcore got into this real tight-wristed, Metallica stuff, which is so nerdy to me.
right.
And so safe, and I'll repeat myself, but but what Jay and I kind of gravitated towards was the stuff that was just like either really beautiful. I mean, even like the early REM records.
Yeah.
And then really like crazy stuff like The Birthday Party, then industrial stuff like SBK, Throbbing Gristle.
And what's that one? Eisenstadt and Neubauten?
Yeah, Einstürzen in the Neubau. Yeah, absolutely.
Einstürzen in Neubauten.
Collapsing new structures. Einstürzen in the Neubau.
But see, wasn't there like, and you were only 16 or 17, you guys, but I mean, and I'm only a couple years older than you,
Yeah.
but there was, outside of just punk rock, I mean, all that stuff, industrial and all this other stuff, certainly stuff that was coming over from Europe, seemed to have this full philosophy behind it that was rooted in art.
Yeah.
In a way, and
Yep.
on some level, I remember as a younger person thinking like, well, this is a way of life, and I don't understand it,
Yeah.
so I'll listen to one or two records, and I can never just listen to the sounds of it because I'm not really a musician. I always felt like there was some bigger thing I didn't fucking understand that this was all part of,
Yeah.
and I needed to understand all that.
Yeah.
Did you?
I did. Well, I never really felt a part of anything in particular.
Yeah.
But I did see what you're saying. I mean, like, God, these guys were wearing suits and, like, playing drills, like, whoa. And they had,
much bigger than me.
It's
What do you mean?
bigger than me. They're smarter than me. They're
Exactly.
much higher than I am.
Right? It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
All right. So you knew Eric back then. Like, forgive me if I don't know all my my history and chronology
Oh, that's fine.
of your life.
It's fine.
But I know that the first Sebadoh records were with him.
Yeah. He and I really bonded very early on about the band Flipper. And,
Yeah.
And
How old were you guys? He met you during Deep Wound, so.
we would have been 18, 19.
But he didn't work with you in Dinosaur, did he?
No, he didn't. We almost had him try out for drums. Oh, we did. We actually tried him out for drums with Dinosaur.
Yeah.
And he didn't cut it. Because Jay's very particular. And Eric's an amazing kind of Keith Moon drummer. Like, he just plays whatever he feels. One day he's the greatest drummer on earth. The next day he can barely play. He's just amazing spirit, this guy. Like, just totally... Which I really gravitated towards. And he and I just started swapping tapes that we had recorded, like, when we were kids with each other.
Like what? Cassettes are a big part of our lives, and
Yeah.
your life too. There was a time where that it meant something. A cassette,
Sure. And they were cassettes. You had cassettes that your parents made of you when you were 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like my father used to force us to do letters to my grandma, but a cassette.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, it's time, your turn. I'm like, hi, Grandma, it's Louie. I'm playing baseball,
Yeah.
So we always had these little recorders around, and I started to use them to record songs and record my sisters. And make prank phone calls, record prank phone calls. And
remember that little thing you got at Radio Shack that you could stick on the phone?
Was awesome.
The best thing in the world.
Great. Yeah. It sounded good with a guitar. You put it on a guitar, too, and it sounded really good.
You took one of those sticky things that you could stick on the receiver onto the guitar?
Yeah.
Onto an acoustic?
Yep.
And it sounded good.
It sounded amazing. It sounds like completely distorted, and that was my first before I got amplifiers and things like that. So
that was it? That was the sticky thing from the Radio Shack.
Yeah, and then also just, how you get those little plastic mics, too.
Yeah.
That you could play into. You'd have a stereo with maybe a cassette player and an 8-track on it.
Right.
And a turntable.
Right.
So we had one of those. My parents had one, and I could just sort of rig it so I could put a microphone into a guitar, play it out through the speakers, and it would just be crazy. It sounded so awesome.
That signature crunch.
Yeah, it just sounded great. And then that's when so Eric and I we would swap tapes that we made when we were kids.
Yeah.
And we were also interestingly to me now, thinking about it, but we also just were really into Christianity. Like, we loved talking about Jesus and religion.
Were you brought up with it?
I was, yeah. Like, I was raised Roman Catholic. He was a bit of a hippie child.
Uh-huh.
Or he was a hippie child. So we just talked about Jesus all the time. We went to Bible readings and study.
What was it? Were you looking to? Did you believe, or were you condescending it? Or you didn't know?
We didn't know. We were just curious. I mean, we were both, like, experimenting a lot. I mean, we were taking a lot of acid.
You were?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
He took more than me, but taking some acid, trying to score weed all the time. And somehow that was all just went hand in hand with us. We didn't really...
Jesus, weed, and acid.
It was all
the
like...
same pursuit.
It was funny. It was like we were kind of into I hate saying that we were a spiritual pursuit, but we kind of were. That's kind of what we were into, and the music actually was a big part of it as well.
Yeah.
Somehow.
And so, okay, but you didn't lock in with him in a band sense until later.
Maybe a year or so later.
But this was all in Massachusetts?
Yeah, it's in Western Mass, yeah.
Is that where you grew up mostly?
Yes, I did.
Westfield. You weren't born there?
No, I was born in Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
A little bit. I mean, I was there till I was 11. And my dad actually worked with Iggy Pop's mom. Like,
really?
Yeah. That was a thing. I kind of knew about Iggy sort of early on.
What did your dad do? I mean, what was...
He was a manager at an abrasives plant, Bendix Abrasive.
Bendix Abrasives?
Yeah, they made like car brakes,
Sure.
And or something else. And so when the automobile industry collapsed in Michigan, like in the late 70s, that's when we moved to Massachusetts.
But he worked with Iggy Pop's mom?
Yes.
So, he would tell you, like, this woman I work with, Mrs. Osterberg, her son is a musician.
Yeah, and when he did this whole thing in Cincinnati that was televised, where he spread himself with peanut butter. Yeah, right. Iggy. He spread himself with peanut butter and it was this amazing thing where they were doing this live. There was a live festival in Cincinnati, and it was being broadcast as if it was a sporting event because it was at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. So you had Alice Cooper playing, and then I think Leonard Skinner. I don't know.
Sure.
But he spread himself with peanut butter. So there's actually an announcer going, "He's spreading himself with peanut butter now." The crowd is passing him along, so it's really crazy. I'm sure it's on YouTube. But.
And your dad's like, I work with his mother.
Yeah.
Abrasives. So he left. He left after the industry collapsed and then set up shop in...
in Massachusetts.
And what did he do there? Abrasives?
Well, it was abrasives. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It was like a bunch of people, they basically transplanted a bunch of families from Michigan to Massachusetts.
Yeah. And was he? Did he like music? I mean, what?
Yeah, he liked music, but they weren't like big fans. I mean, we didn't have a lot of records in the house growing up or anything.
And what did your mom do over there?
She would work secretarial jobs. She loves your show, by the way.
She does.
She does. she's really scared about what I'm going to say.
Oh, really? Oh my God! I didn't know I had that read.
No, you do. She loves it, but she worked secretarial jobs and assistant sort of clerical.
Well, did she know that her son was running around high to Bible studies and taking acid in the basement?
I don't know. No, they actually.
Do you feel bad now? They did. I mean, you got to figure they know. You turned out all right, right?
I turned out okay.
They're proud. They're happy.
They seem okay with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They worry.
They do. Yeah. Well, I know it's weird when you choose the life we've chosen, and all of a sudden you find yourself in your mid-40s, and still the only thing you could say is like, "Well, I got a gig." It's like we're playing at this place, But yeah, I mean, I have to assume though. given your catalog and you've done this thing that when people think about musicians and certainly sort of indie style musicians, people that have avoided the mainstream kind of rock profile, is that you build a big enough catalog and you hold on to your fans long enough, you can sort of make a living.
You can.
Yeah. I talked to Jay. I saw Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw him recently at the Sub Pop thing, and I talked to him in here.
Okay.
And it was interesting because he, I know he wanted to do the show, and then for about 20 minutes I was like, is he going to talk soon?
Yeah.
He's a very sweet guy, and I hung out with him. But obviously people want to hear about you guys, and but if you hadn't been fired or whatever happened from Dinosaur Jr., I mean, Sebadoh wouldn't have happened.
No, I had Sebadoh going before.
The first album, the first couple albums?
The first cassettes, we did 2 cassettes while I was still in Dinosaur.
Which was Freed...
the Freed Man, and then something called Weed Forest.
Now, you probably told the story a million times before.
I always learn something new about it when I tell it again.
Well, did you listen to his interview with me?
No, I didn't. I was really afraid because I thought I was kind of terrified because I'm like, oh God, he'll just say so. Because he always says the most withering shit. Like it, and I'm so sensitive to it, and I'm so sort of like he's such a huge figure in my life, and I've never really figured him out. So he's but he always says like stuff like, well, bass doesn't matter, You're like, what? And then I always learn little bits about what he thinks about me on these things, so I was really scared to listen to it. And so when it actually came out, I was like, so what did he say? Did he say anything?
You know what he said? He said you got a girlfriend and you...
He started to talk to me. That's the party. That's his thing. Is like he started to talk too much, and I didn't like what he was saying. It's like oh God,
that's
like,
the party line.
He said that for years, and it's just like, what the fuck? It still like gets me. I'm still like, oh God, that hurts.
But that's not horrible. I mean, you had a girlfriend at least.
Oh, I did. I did. It was great. No, it was great. I got a girlfriend, and I definitely started to become my own person. I became more confident, and
Well, how old are you guys? Because okay, so the story is you're in Deep Wound. You need a drummer. Jay comes and auditions for you, and he's a good drummer.
He's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, he is sort of a savant-y kind of dude.
He is.
Who was I talking to? The kid from Kyle from King Tuffy,
right? And
he said he was in a van with Jay, and they were driving a few hours, and he had an acoustic guitar, maybe even an electric guitar, and he said he started a solo about 10 minutes into the drive, and it went on for 4 hours.
Oh yeah. And if he's not actually soloing on a guitar, he's doing it just with his mouth.
Really?
When he plays air drums all the time.
All right, so he comes in. Now, what is the beginning of your relationship musically? I mean, when did you start to sort of build the Dinosaur Jr. thing?
1985.
Yeah.
Late 84, 85. I had just graduated from high school. Jay was a freshman at UMass Amherst.
So you were a year apart?
Yeah. So I was like 21, 22. Mm-hmm. He was 22. I think, yeah, I don't know.
And you were bringing to it, what his music influences were kind of odd. I mean, they were, he was kind of rock oriented, right?
He was, but I mean, he had just an amazing collection of punk rock records. And
is that where you guys bonded around?
Yeah, sure, yeah. And then I was really into domestic hardcore, like the stuff from DC, like that. Discord Records, Henry Rollins, SOA, his early stuff.
Fugazi?
Pre-Fugazi, Minor Threat. Minor Threat, SOA, Government Issue.
Do you remember what your first record was?
My first...
record where you're like, this is a good record.
I mail-ordered something called the Teen Idols, which was the first record on Discord Records.
Uh-huh.
And that was kind of like, whoa,
this
is like really... I mean, there's so many other examples of that, but that record in particular was like... Because it was just these kids from DC obviously making their own record. And,
right.
And it was so thrilling. And they had this weird straight edge philosophy tune. At that time I hadn't really done drugs, so I just like,
let's do that. Let's not do those.
Let's continue to not do drugs in honor of DC hardcore.
That didn't last long. All right, so you guys how much Deep Wound was Jay on those early records?
Yeah. We did one record, a 7-inch that had 9 songs on it.
Yeah.
And,
And then when did you decide to do the other thing?
85, like late 84, 85.
Yeah.
Sort of hardcore scene was kind of not really thrilling us so much. And
Yeah.
there was a big influx of what I guess was at the time would be college rock, like REM, Mission of Burma.
Right. That's when I reached for my revolver.
Exactly. Like that single was a huge deal. And
right, that's right. And then, I remember seeing them when I was in college.
Yep. And there was a band called the Neats. Maybe you saw the Neats. Did you see them?
I'm trying to...
They're from Boston, same record label.
When I was in Boston, it was like 81.
Okay.
So, like, it was the Dogmatics, Scruffy the Cat.
Yeah.
I saw Steve Albini at the Rap on a solo, at the Rat on a solo venture of some kind of Del Fuegos.
Del Fuegos. We played a lot with the Del Fuegos.
Zane, I think, from the Del Fuegos is a big kids rock, kids music thing.
He is.
Doesn't it amaze you that, like, as a guy that sort of half invented, that world of indie rock later on, redefined it anyways? I mean, I know as a comic, you've been doing something for half your life.
Yeah.
Since you were pretty much a kid, and then you kind of see guys where you haven't seen them for like 15 years. You're like, oh, you're still alive, huh?
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
His story is cool.
Who?
Zane.
Yeah.
His story is awesome. Like he became a huge kids music star.
Yeah.
And I saw him in Tucson. Because he was in Tucson working to like help people across the border from Mexico. So he has this he's got this incredible, like, generous political side,
progressive
like,
thing.
God, this guy's just perfect.
Yeah, and right?
Making kids music and helping people.
And they were the guys that got like nailed for no reason. They were like the first like kind of punky indie band that did a beer commercial. And it kind of fucked their credibility, right? You remember there was this rap on, they had the studio record, and then they did the Miller commercial. It was like, fuck the Del Fuegos.
Right.
Those records are good, though.
Right.
All right, so you and Jay, so Dinosaur, what was the vision there? What was the transition like? Let's stop the punk rock shit.
Well, Jay wrote the very first Dinosaur record is him just writing, 12, 13, 14 songs, all of which were stylistically different from each other.
And which album is that called?
It's called Dinosaur.
That's okay. I have
just
that
Dinosaur.
One. Yeah.
Self-titled.
I just got that one.
Yeah, and this was done at the time that we were just going to Boston all the time, playing at Chet's Last Call, The Rat. I think. Yeah. Anyway.
Bun Ratties.
Yeah. So he just wrote a bunch of songs that were all totally different and all like amazing. Like he would just totally compose the songs, had incredible lyrics. Like it was like. He was a freshman at UMass, and I think he had a writing class or something. So something was like, he was writing these incredible, like, lyrics, with incredible stories in them.
Yeah.
And was just exploding creatively. And I didn't even think he wanted me in the band because I knew he didn't like me. I was like, once Deep Boom broke up, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll never see that guy again.
Really? Did you feel that he liked anybody though? Really?
Yeah, he liked people.
but not you.
He didn't like me. No, he some people he really liked.
Yeah. Was it contentious? He must have respected your ability to play.
I guess. I guess he did, but everything was so personal back then. I didn't think that my eagerness to play would somehow overcome how annoying I was for him, so.
But what was it exactly? I mean, when you sort of think about it, because I'm fascinated with bands in general, is that it seems to me that some great bands, when they do break up, it's right when everything is fucking great. Which, to all of us listening, we're like, they're in.
Right.
Here they go. Yeah. And then it's like some bullshit happens, and you've been in and out of bands and had these problems. But what was the primary thing? Was it jealousy? Was it like, what?
I don't know.
Yeah?
He just really seemed really annoyed by me. And so when I would talk to him, I would get really nervous. And then the nerves would then be like compounded by the huge silences that he would I would call him on the phone and, oh, hi, did you hear this new single or whatever?
Yeah.
This long pause. Well, okay. I mean, just like phone calls with him became they were so incredibly painful that I would just fill it with just words, and I would just talk out my ass. Like, I don't know what to say. I'd just trying to fill these gaps, and then he would then just judge me for the shit I was filling the gaps in with.
Oh, so you just wait, and then he'd pick it apart.
Then he would just wait until some particular time and just fucking pick me apart and devastate me in front of friends. You know, like we're sitting at a KFC somewhere. I hate the way you eat chicken. I hate, it's just like, what the fuck?
No.
It's like, I hate the way you talk to waitresses. And I'm like, wait, what? Like,
oh my God.
Just.
It's like an abusive relationship. It was an emotionally difficult.
It was. Yeah.
Abusive. But what was Murph like any sort of mediator? Was there any?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, Murph was just this kind of bouncing free spirit, among us. He was very confused by Jay and angered by him, but he would just, he was just a real.
Well, you guys are the rhythm section. Yeah. I think they take maybe I'm wrong, and you can tell me. I just find that bass players and drummers have a stability that guitar players and singers don't necessarily have. I mean, maybe I'm seeing it as a metaphor, what they do. Yeah. Like, they need to be the backbone of something, but.
Yeah, well, no, totally. I mean, that happened. I mean, I really focused with Murph to become a real rhythm section, And it was a lot of, like, taming Murph's style to fit Jay's vision.
So you guys sort of had to interpret Jay.
Yeah.
And try to get, Murph sort of in line with
get
that
him in
thing.
Line. Just and then get Murph in line.
So you could follow Jay.
So we could follow Jay. And I believed in Jay. Like, I kind of was developing a very deep and sick hatred / jealousy for him, with him. But at the same time, I was totally, like, completely convinced of his musical agenda.
Yeah.
Completely,
But was he wasn't a tyrant, though?
He was kind of a tyrant, yeah.
But you believed in the sounds.
I believed in it. So, yeah, absolutely. Whatever it takes,
So you have that sort of that personality. That, because when you talk about Eric Gaffney or you talk about Jay, if guys have a certain sort of possession or charisma, it's sort of like, that guy's, he's got something.
I follow.
Yeah.
I follow. I'm a follower.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that in a bad way.
No, I'm saying it.
Yeah.
I'm saying literally, I like following people. I like, if I meet people who are charismatic and do have like a talent, or they're like, if I will find a way to communicate with them and find a common ground and see what will happen. I mean, for the music.
Yeah.
For the music, and then obviously personally too, because it all goes hand in hand. But.
Well, I have that too. Is your father like charismatic guy?
He is.
Yeah, because I find that, like, when I try to track, why, I will sort of glom on to lunatics.
Huh.
Or people with charisma.
Yeah.
It's sort of, I'm kind of wired that way. Because, my dad's sort of like, hey, I'm the guy in the middle of the room. This is my show. Yeah. And there's some part of me that's like, oh, that's the guy.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Really?
Yeah, I've always been kind of, I've never known what I love my father,
Right.
But I've never known what sort of how he's influenced me exactly.
Right.
I mean, I know that I'm not exactly that guy. Like, I'm in the, that you're describing,
right.
But there are parts of me that is a little bit like that. But I do really like charisma. I like people who kind of seem like they know where they're going.
Right. Yeah. It's sort of like, that seems like a fun car to be in. It'll be easy. I've noticed that in my life around even street lunatics. Mm-hmm. Like, it happened, and I was just in Montreal. If there's a guy, screaming at something only he can see, he will stop to ask me a question. Right. He will, and I'm like, am I wide open for this shit?
Right.
Am I just designed to emotionally, symbiotically connect to anybody who's like, I'm the guy who has the thing?
I'm not quite that, but my friend Jason is. I mean, Jason in Sebadoh, everybody will talk to him. You just put him in front of any building, and he'll walk back out, and there's just like
people around him.
Street people. I mean, it's amazing.
So okay, but you were able to sort of pull out and do your own musical projects, and I think that your songwriting is in some ways extremely personal, and there's a lot of I mean, when I listen to it, like, I understand some of the struggles. There's a sensitivity there that I mean, I guess Jay's sensitive, and when you look at the sound of Dinosaur Jr., because I re-listened to Bake Sale and Harmony and some other stuff recently, because I had to I wanted to fill my head up with your shit.
Oh, thanks.
But it's hard. I don't know that Dinosaur could have been just Jay. It doesn't feel that way to me. It feels like there's, in the first couple of records that the sound was uniquely both of yours. I mean, you listen to Jay now, but then it's very weird. I don't know what your fans do, or if there are Jay camps and Lou camps, which I'm sure there are.
A little bit.
Yeah. Do you get a little flack?
I get flack, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like what?
I don't know. I mean, I've said terrible things about Jay once, and they kicked me out of the band. And
Was Freed Man anything? Was it related to that?
it wasn't actually, but I mean, it was related. There was a dorm at Smith College because Eric Gaffney and I lived on the Smith College campus. You
didn't go there?
No, it's a women's college. So our girlfriends went there, and we basically lived on campus at Smith College.
Classic musician behavior.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a freedmen dormitory that he and I we were sort of squatting in our girlfriend's college dorm.
Yeah.
And that's where there was an empty room, and Eric Gaffney and I would kind of use that room to play music and record. So
they never kicked you out? There was never sort of like, why are those guys here?
Yeah, no, they didn't. That was good.
So what was that day like when was there a fight? Was there an explosion? Had you been marginalized to the point where you didn't feel like you had a place in anything?
Well, we'd had an incident on stage where we played a song that I wasn't prepared to play, and I started to play feedback through the song, thinking that I was actually thinking that it was a good thing that I was doing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm making feedback.
Yeah.
How creative.
Yeah.
And the song ended, and Jay came over and pretty much tried to hit me with his guitar.
Was that
I'm free? Like, that's it. I can't take it anymore. And I'm like, I've never played feedback all the way through a song before, but if you can't take the general, vibe that's going on, I appreciate that. So he came over to me, and he just he tried to hit me, and I was just like, I blocked it with my bass, and
you guys crossed instruments?
Yeah, we did. It was like, like epic, crashing feedback.
What'd the audience do?
They just stood there. I don't
know.
They
thought it was part of the show.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah,
I don't know.
punk rock, man.
But I actually felt a sense of victory when Jay did that. Like, he cracked first. I was like, aha, I got you. Like, I got him to fucking react, because he wouldn't react to anything that ever. It's like he wouldn't really react, and he would just basically was just these just like calm and silence punctuated with devastating one-line, sections of my personality and all the friends that we have. I mean, and then, so I cracked him, I got him, so I was, but I that was not my intention, but I was kind of thrilled that it happened, and they kicked me out shortly after that. So
we have a lot in common, man. There's something about like having a relationship with a control freak that that like at some point all you're gunning for is for them to like and you're like, oh, see, I do have an effect. You do like me. Look, you're freaking out. Is there some way I can help you? But okay, so they kick you out, and you were bitter.
I was bitter.
Yeah.
Mostly about the way they did it.
What album was that at? I mean, what had just come out?
We had just done Bug.
That's a great album.
Yeah, we did the little world tour around that, and we played a show in L.A. opening for Red Cross at the John Ensign Ford Theater. I flew back home from that, and they fired me within a week, I think.
Who's they?
Jay and Murph.
So, I mean, he'd gotten Murph.
He got Murph and basically made Murph do the talking. Like, they walked in like, we're breaking up the band. They're in my apartment in Northampton. We're breaking up the band. And I'm like, okay.
That was it?
And they walked out, and then and then pretty soon after that, they're like looking for bass players on MTV, and
oh, really?
And then I think they went right to Australia after they did that. It was just, but it was like Jay's thing. Like, the band's broken up. We had Dinosaur had a singer originally.
Yeah.
That we wanted to get rid of, so we broke up the band for a day, then reformed to get rid of him.
So it wasn't a firing. It was sort of like, well, none of us are gonna. It was a little cowardly.
Positively cowardly, and I was, I was obsessed with that for a while,
But you'd done 2 Sebadoh stuff, and then
yep.
And then which album did you do? What was the album where you were free of Dinosaur?
Sebadoh 3.
Yeah, and that was your big album.
Yeah, we put out.
And that was with Gaffney.
That was with Gaffney.
Who you called him up after meeting him in high school and said it's time.
Yeah, well, we just kept in touch, and that's when we got Jason Lowenstein. He was like 15 years old, got him to play drums, and he also brought his own songs. We were very into like switching instruments, because Eric was a drummer and a guitar player. Jason also guitar player, drummer, bass player.
And you play guitar.
I play guitar and bass. And
Yeah.
I switch back, between the two. And I mean, we just played each other's songs, and that was.
Well, okay, so now let's talk a little bit about this sound, because there is definitely a dinosaur sound, but there's also a Sebadoh sound, and there's also this sort of thing that I don't know if I guess you hear it still, but I think that our generation was the last to sort of kind of appreciate and incorporate a lot of analog weirdness and cassette tapes and weird things in the background, but it seemed organic, and I guess they call it lo-fi, or the first wave of lo-fi, because there seems to be a new resurgence of what they're calling lo-fi.
Yeah.
But what did it mean to you when you got labeled that? Because I can't imagine you were thinking that.
No, people sort of took it as being like a half-assed way of doing things. I just liked it,
Yeah.
Because I just grew up with cassettes. I love the texture of cassettes.
Right.
I love I love the ghosts that come out of, like, if you put a bunch of, like tape hiss and rumbling and all this stuff, like there's things start to whisper at you from it,
True, right?
And that's how, I would actually form a lot of songs. I would hear the melodies coming out of the noise that I would kind of create.
Really?
Yeah. You can kind of hear like I formed songs that way, especially with Sebadoh 3, and then was doing a lot of like acoustic stuff, but layering it in such a way that there would be a lot of overtones that were coming off of that, and that were, kind of, literally speaking to me.
Like what were these things you were playing? Like you would record different things and then run them at the same time to see what kind of textures they would come.
Exactly. And
did you bring outside elements in?
What do you mean?
Like did you go on the street and record things?
We did that.
Like what?
Well, we would take the tape recorder to Kmart.
Really?
Yeah, and just walk around Kmart and film, or excuse me, not film stuff, but tape
just record
things.
it,
just record little bits, and then we'd make like there was a lot of collages. We'd make these just collages of little bits of things, and then also incorporate like our cassettes from when we were kids, and then I was using a lot of like acoustic guitars where it was like, with 2 or 3 strings on them with different kind of tunings, and then just sort of trying to build songs that way.
And people thought that was amateurish or what?
And self-indulgent.
Yeah, but the thing is that but that comes from an aesthetic. There are precedents for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of noise music and the stuff that like Fred Frith was doing and things like that.
Oh yeah, there's a huge precedence for it. I mean, that's all. But what's always sort of ridiculous to me is when people go, "Oh, you're the godfather of lo-fi." I'm like, that's really dumb. I'm not. I'm like part of I'm just another kid who's passing this along.
Well, you're part of a tradition of using textures, sound textures,
and also just intimate, private recording, not necessarily being in a studio or that kind of clinical atmosphere.
Well, this was also the time where people were like, "Shut up, little man," and those tapes were kind of going around, and there was a whole world of scenes and cassettes and things being passed around. Daniel Johnston was doing his cassettes, and there was I'd like to say earnestness to it, but there's also kind of this, you can't hide. There are things that happen on cassette that are one-shot deals, man.
Yeah.
And you were just kind of layering them up.
Yeah.
It's not even lo-fi at all. It's just, I would think it would be more along the lines of art rock on some level.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, it was that way, especially with Sebadoh 3, and then I had to sort of streamline the approach because, basically to make a living, I had to play live shows, and
there's that. You can't.
That became like a thing. I was like, wow, I got to do this. I actually have to embrace it. So there was a streamlining that kind of had to happen out of necessity to play shows and play songs that and not do purely improvisational shows like actually.
Well, because that's the difference between knowing that you wanted to create something enjoyable as opposed to just.
I know, it's like I had to make that choice at some point, where I was just like, well, it's not going to be improv and tape collages.
Drag someone through this 3-hour thing where you're running around turning machines on.
Yeah, I mean, because I could have done that. I love that. I love that part of it. I love that thing, and I know. And that's very well respected to do that, and it's very
kind of. But like when you think about guys who do that, or guys that you can remember in your life, do you listen to any of that stuff anymore? No. I mean, who are those guys? I mean, I remember having Fred Frith albums, and those were the records that I remember being that. Where like I had some dude at a record store who was like, in Albuquerque.
Some dude in the record.
There's always that dude, right? It's like you got to listen to this. Do I have to listen to it? And then you take it home and you're like, it seems very important. No one else seems to know about this. Yeah. So this guy's really fucking special. And you're just sitting there listening to street sounds for an hour. And think like, where's the composition in this?
Yeah. There were good things. Remember Ralph Records?
Right, the Residents.
The Residents, Ronaldo and the Loaf.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Snake Finger. That stuff was pretty catchy.
Chew gum, chew gum, chew gum, chew gum, chew. Like the
yes.
Yeah, I know. I've got a copy of Discamo or Eskimo on white vinyl.
Nice.
And it's just like.
Yeah, but they had songs too. They had the commercial record, the Residents.
Right, I think that's one with Chew Gum is on, isn't it?
Is it? It might be. I'm not sure, but there's 60 songs on it.
Right, they're all a minute long. Yeah,
it's a really catchy, cool record.
What that whole world? I mean, what would you call that world? Because like I was there too, and it was that guy at the record store who was making me listen to this stuff.
Oh God.
I still have on vinyl, I think, the George and James album.
What's that?
What was the Residents? They redid George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue on one side and James Brown Live at the Apollo on the other side in this weird kind of compressed computery kind of, it's like, it's not a record you would sit down and listen to.
No. No, when the Residents, I had the Residents on my iPod, and every time they would pop up, for a while I was like, it's great, I gotta have the Residents on my iPod. Now they pop up and I'm like leaping off the couch to shut it off. I'm like, I will have, my iPod is on random, is truly chaotic, but the Residents, I'm like, no.
It's hard, man, and they're still out there, and I respect what they did. In the stage show is
theater,
great with the eyeballs,
their eyeballs, and all that stuff.
But I guess what it was designed to do. I imagine they do have some people that love them, know, and I do. But there is that weird, the difference between when you're younger and you're impressionable, which it seems like we both are. That you hear stuff like that and you think like, well, they've got something figured out. Yeah. And then you spend a lot of time trying to sort of like, be the guy that is on board with that when really all you can, but then you end up taking people to events and they're like, what is this? And you're like, just hang out. And then at some point during one of those events, you're like, I don't even know why I'm here because I'm not necessarily enjoying myself. Yeah. But what I was getting at was that it influenced you and sort of, you took the parts of that you could wrap your brain around and just fucking ran with it.
Yeah, and I made songs. Yeah. 'Cause I like songs. Yeah. So that's it.
You write a lot of fucking songs.
Yeah, and I like them. I love, that's it. Yeah.
Well, some of it's coming back too because there's a guy in Radiohead now, the guitar player Johnny, I guess, is now he's almost exclusively playing with pedals on stage. Like they're doing their concert and he's just at a console, right? Making sounds. Yeah, yeah. So so you put the band together to tour, and what'd you lose in doing that? It must have changed your sound because
it did. I mean, it streamlined it. Yeah. So instead of playing every song having a different tuning, all the songs would have one tuning or two or three tunings, right? Because we literally could not be sitting there tuning guitars at every song because our shows were already the worst shows or best shows ever. But I mean, it was just a matter of like trying to make a show that was like kind of move one song after the other, trying to just like just get out of there without everybody hating us, and be able to come back, right? And we streamlined the sound a bit, and we put out a couple of like electric records, and then we put out a record called Bake Sale, which was people really liked.
And they reissued that because I know I've got the special reissued one.
Yeah, we reissued that a couple of years ago.
So those records, you think like Bake Sale, Harmacy, and The Sebadoh, those are your most polished records? Yes. Yeah. Why do you kind of?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know why I made a weird.
Do you like them less or more than the other ones? Or
I like Bake Sale a lot. I like the vibe.
Holds up, dude, man.
It's great. It's a sweet record. I mean, I guess it's sweet. I like the vibe of it. Yeah. I like Harmacy was kind of rough because Sub Pop had put so much importance in us, and we were supposed to go to this next level, and they dumped, maybe millions of dollars into us, or hundreds of thousands of dollars into that record, into the idea that Sebadoh was going to go to the next level.
What does that mean for someone like Sub Pop? The Nirvana level? I mean, because when you really think about who really went to the next level from, I just got a box from Sub Pop, and I love Mudhoney, I love a lot of their bands, the Screaming Trees, I think were originally on Sub Pop, that whole, and I think I got that record Harmacy originally on Sub Pop because there was a period there in like, what was it, like 91 or 92?
This would be like Harmacy was 96.
Oh, was that late? Yeah. There was that. Well, I guess I was involved in that first wave of
the
Sub
first
Pop.
wave was awesome. Yeah, like Mudhoney and Tad.
But like Tad, Tad was at that thing, dude.
That's what I heard. Yeah, yeah.
That was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And Jay does this thing where he just walks on stage with a pedal board and a guitar. Mm-hmm. He's finally perfected playing everything himself somehow.
Yeah.
Live.
I know. He did it at Amoeba like last week.
You went over there?
Yeah, it was really good.
So you guys are okay?
Yeah. No, he's got a kid. He's got a 5-year-old.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
and
he's got a spiritual system. He seems pretty zen. He doesn't seem that aggravated.
No, he doesn't. Yeah. I think he is, but I mean, in general, I don't. I think he actually.
It was kind of interesting to see him, just to talk about him for a minute, to see, like, because they had all those bands. They had Mudhoney, The Catheters, Mets. I mean, guys that were just like, rah! And then in the middle of this, on the main stage, like, we're at this backstage thing. They had sort of given us a restaurant to hang out at all day. Mm-hmm. And Jay's sort of like, okay. And then he just walks over by himself. Mm-hmm. And in the middle of this, what was like a, loud-ass rock show, one after the other, right. He just gets up there and sits down with his acoustic guitar and starts layering. Mm-hmm. And then in the middle of it, with this antique Gibson, I think he's playing, he'll just he'll get a rhythm track going and just play
launch
lead.
into his solo. Yeah, it's really funny.
It's crazy.
It's really funny how he does that. It actually worked. He's gotten it. He's really perfected it because it sounded really good at Amoeba the other day. I was like, because I always thought that was a little ridiculous. Right. I always thought that was like, it's a little self-indulgent. Right. Playing leads on acoustic guitar.
To your acoustic rhythm.
Or just sometimes he would just play the leads without the double underneath.
Right.
It.
Well, I think what it does, though, what I noticed was that, like, with the expectation of Dinosaur fans and the expectation of a rock show, is that, his melodies are pretty sweet, as are yours.
And his leads are really good.
Right, but, like, they're kind of waiting for the crunch. Yeah. So, like, there's some part of him that's sort of like, I got to deliver some crunch.
I think he's really lived into that, actually.
What, the crunch?
The crunch and doing that solo, I was really impressed last time I saw him.
So, with, but you did, like, 4 solo records?
I did a ton under the name Centrado solo.
What was it behind that name? Why'd you?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know, just some nonsense. I just liked the way it sounded, and it was related to Sabado, and
so people would know.
I guess they would know. I mean, to me, it fit some kind of grand plan that I had. I've kind of forgotten what that was, but.
Well, they come and go as you live longer. Yeah. But, like, getting back to Eric Gaffney and getting back to, whatever issues you had with Jay, how do relationships in bands sort of begin to sort of break down? Why, after, 2 or 3 records, Eric Gaffney is gone?
Eric just really, while we were playing these shows, I mean, there was the problem that I would say was that we were putting out these records and people were really focusing on my songs because they were more melodic, they were more traditional. Eric was writing these impressionistic, amazing, like just chaotic songs, but with really cool lyrics in them, but he has a very unique voice that some people,
like or don't like,
like or don't like. He's got it, it divides people. So he has sort of a divisive musical presence on the records, which I like, but people started, of course, not of course, but they started gravitating towards my songs, and he felt that, and then so there was nothing I could do to stop that from happening.
Right.
Even though, like, when we played live, it was like, no, we kept it really equal all the time. I never, like, tried to step out, like,
right.
Because Eric was such an incredibly gifted performer, really, and he loved being in front of people. Like, we used to play, we used to be downtown Northampton, and he would just grab an acoustic guitar and just start improvising songs on the street corner, and just like, he was just this really provocative, like, lead man, So, I mean, and so when he would play guitar, when Sabado played, Jason and I would assemble behind him and play as his band. And when I would play, they would assemble behind me and play as my band. And I really liked that. But eventually, like, Eric just really started chafing at that whole idea. Like, because I think he really wanted to be in control. Yeah. And he kind of felt like I stole the control from him.
That's the same, that's all, I guess that is the fundamental issue with band dynamics. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, that's what happened with Dinosaur Jr., that's what happened with, whether it's real or not real, whether it's someone's like, fuck you, you're controlling, or you don't realize you're controlling, or those kind of obstacles can't be negotiated sometimes.
No, I took it as far as I could with Eric. I mean, he would quit the band whenever he felt like it, and he would send me these really long letters that were all written in different color ink, and he would almost make them like collages. They kind of look like serial killer notes.
Yeah.
And he would just always pick out things like, where I had insulted him at some point, or he would dissect the way I had treated him and just be like, okay, well, why don't you go live in Portland for a couple of months, and then when you're ready to come back, give me a call, and he would do that. So he would always come back and leave and come back, and then finally he sent me another one of these letters, and he said, I want 1/3 of every record advance. You will not play on any of my songs. I will not go on tour. Just like, and I said, that's great. You're not in the band anymore. Like, sorry, that you can't be a guy who takes 1/3 of our money,
right?
Does all your own stuff, puts your songs in with mine, and never tours or plays my songs. It's not going to happen. Like, that's wrong. I had to put my foot down and just be like, that's not happening, friend. Like, anything else will happen as long as if you want to spend the time with me to make music and let me play your music and play my music, I'll do anything you want. I'll do any crazy shit you want to do.
Right.
I will continue to follow you into whatever weird territory you want to go to. I will be there. I will be your man. I'll be your wingman.
Yeah.
But that's too far.
Yeah.
And then it was just then years of him just writing me letters like, you owe me $100,000. You owe me. And then with the invention of the net and email, I just got this idea in my head, like, I got to get Eric back, I got to get him back.
Yeah.
So I spent 2 years just emailing him constantly and addressing every single one of his points.
Yeah.
I don't owe you $20,000 because, when you think, and he had some wild stuff that he'd accuse me of that I would just, really just go by point and just say, I didn't do that.
At any point, did you think well, maybe he's got some mental issues?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But everybody did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Jay, he's, there's something going on with Jay.
Sure.
There's some, and then as I get older and look at myself, and the clearer I can look at myself, I'm like, I've got some issues too. I played in a band called the Folk Implosion with a guy, John Davis, who was just brilliant, beautiful guy. He had some really serious issues.
Well, yeah. Well, what okay? So what ultimately happened with you and Eric?
Eric, well, we got him back in the band, 2007.
Yeah.
Got him back in the band, reissued some records, went on tour. He played drums for us.
Yeah.
We got the old band back together again, and we toured, Europe and the U.S.
It went well?
Yeah, I think it went great. But somehow we lost $6,000 in the midst of one of these tours, and we didn't know where it went. Yeah. And so then it was I had to figure this out with Eric, who then of course said, well, there's $6,000 missing. You need to give me that money. I'm like, I don't have that money. We all lost that money.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works. And then from there, it was he just would then start just sending me more of these kind of letters you insulted me on stage in Hamburg, and
so
I
right
you did,
it,
just it was okay.
Yeah.
And then it just became about him just going through the minutia of all of the horrible ways that I had offended him or shamed him in public, and okay.
So that was it.
That was it. And then and I'm with Jason the whole time too, and Jason's a very no nonsense
Lowenstein.
Yeah, he's awesome. Really.
And he seems stable.
He's stable.
I haven't heard
he's but he's a guy who comes from absolute chaos in his background as much as anyone else. There's people who come from chaos who hold that against the world, and there's people who come from chaos and are just they're not chaos.
They have a calm.
They've got a calm.
They've got a system.
They've got a system. They've got a calm.
And he's playing with you tomorrow?
He's playing with me tomorrow and we have a drummer named Bob D'Amico who had been playing with Jason for ages, and they were in a band called the Fiery Furnaces together, and so we've got a new Sabado that we've been playing for about 2 years, and we just did a record. So
John Davis in the Folk Implosion, that was, you did a song with him that became a bona fide hit of sorts.
Yeah, it was cool.
What's it called again?
Natural One.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on the radio.
Yeah.
It was Casey Kasem. It was awesome. It was really sweet.
Where are you at with that project?
I did a record after I moved out here and did 2 records in quick succession, the Sabado, and then I did this record called One Part Lullaby with the Folk Implosion, and that was the first record I put out on a major label. And
It's weird though, because all your records are, are uniquely yours stylistically and melodically and writing wise, but they, some are, stripped down. I mean, the Folk Explosion's a different sound.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That was like we were using lots of samples and all this, almost like, it was like trip hop influenced. It was poppy, but also, it was just, we were really stepping out and kind of like almost, it was a sweet project. I loved it.
And so you were a little more like meticulous about the production.
Yeah, we were.
But still doing what you want to do.
Still doing exactly what I wanted to do, and when working really closely with my partners in the band and with John Davis, and then we had a guy Wally Gagel who produced the record, and we did this really beautiful record. And John quit the day the record came out.
Yeah.
So.
What did you do to him, Lou? How did you drive him crazy?
Well, at the time, there was, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was not in a great state at that time, for sure. But he, I was kind of a drug addict, and he was someone who was his whole life was very controlled. Like I can't really get too in depth about it, but he just, everything had to be very controlled and I was living in chaos. So that definitely, I think for him, he probably needed to get away from me.
Yeah. What was the drug? What was your drug?
Meth.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit. You went down that hole?
I did.
For how long?
Probably 2 years.
Oh my God. Do you do anything now?
I drank a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, so you were nuts.
I was nuts, yeah.
How far nuts? Voices in your head nuts? Were you starting?
I was getting there. I was getting to the voices stage, and then what kind of saved me was I would go on tour.
Yeah.
And I went on tour, and I started drinking whiskey, and whiskey got me off of meth.
Yeah.
And then
it's not the recommended treatment.
No,
but, if it works.
It's not. My whole life, I realized, at some point, my life has always been from the introduction of drugs into my life, it's been like a relay race. It's
sure. Yeah.
Okay, marijuana hands it to alcohol. Alcohol takes it down. Oh, back to marijuana. Marijuana to crystal methamphetamine. Oh, a slight detour into cocaine and ecstasy. No, back to meth. Coming down the final stretch.
Yeah, we're getting a little old for that shit, right?
No,
Meth is taxing.
It's I developed facial tics. I still have.
Yeah. Well, you kept your teeth and your hair.
I did.
So you didn't.
I did.
You didn't commit that much.
No, I can't because I'm not really I'm not a self-destructive person.
You're a self-medicating person.
Yeah, but even that, I don't even know why I have to feel like I have to medicate because I don't.
Because you're a sensitive guy. Seriously.
Maybe, but I don't. Alcohol help. That's a really good social thing for me.
Do you have are you an anxious guy?
I'm pretty anxious, but I know so many people that are so much more anxious than I am that it makes me kind of back off, and I can't afford to be anxious. I can't afford to be afraid to fly.
Right. No. Right.
I can't afford to be freaked out that I'm going over a bridge. I can't I can't afford to freak out about going through a tunnel.
But but would you be if you don't have the self-talk around that?
I have tendencies, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
But because I tended to, my first reaction when I have a lot of things to do is not like I'm going to get them done. It's like fuck, just dread, just like it's like I gotta, and that creates a fucking. I need to calm down. I eat these nicotine lozenges. Yeah. I don't drink or do drugs anymore. It's just all coffee and nicotine.
I would.
What?
I would love not to do anything.
Yeah.
I'd love to not drink and.
It's
just physically, it's just really. Yeah. Physically, it really wears you down. Even just a couple of glasses of wine a night, I'm like, ugh. Yeah. It just kind of gives me a headache.
That's all. You're getting old.
I know. I embrace it. I don't mind getting old. I'm fine with it.
How many kids you got? 2. Yeah, and they live here.
They live here. They live in Silver Lake with their mother.
Yeah, so that fell apart.
That fell apart 8 months ago.
So you're in the middle of it.
I'm going to a meeting with my soon-to-be ex-wife and her lawyer, in about 3 hours, with my lawyer, because they sent me a court order. She told me she wouldn't send me a court order, and then she did.
Let me tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing about this. I got no kids, and a lot of what you're putting on her is her lawyer. that lawyers turn them out.
Oh, I know. I see it. I'd be like, what are you doing? It's like, I got the quarter. What are you doing?
That her lawyer
She's going to ruin us. Like, what are you like?
Oh, man.
She's going to ruin us. I mean, like, if you think you're doing this out of self-interest, or she's talked you into it, or your friends have talked you into thinking you're doing it out of your self-interest, you're actually destroying the two of us.
Right. Yeah, they demonize you. What the lawyer starts to do is like, he's hiding money.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's totally happening because my job is so bizarre.
Right. When you're an independent contractor and, you have a business that, they'll start, and then they're going to fucking drag you through a disclosure process.
Oh, yeah. No, they want a forensic, I'd never heard this term, forensic accountant. That's a new
I'm
term.
sorry you're going through that, dude. And you can't, like, is it hostile? I mean, was she hostile when you separated?
Oh, she was bummed, yeah. I mean, I was the big bad guy. I mean, I broke up with her. I mean, I did the whole classic, middle-aged kind of. But I mean, I fell in love with someone else, and.
Yeah.
But
are you with that person now?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're gonna have to ride this out, buddy.
I know. I'm like, if I can do it without just internalizing all the pressure and somehow it manifesting itself physically, like I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Because I know mentally, like I'm pretty like. There's a lot of. I mean, my kids are a great source of like joy in my life. I mean, in a certain way, like having them outside of the sort of structure that I was living with them in before has been like a huge gift for me.
Yeah.
Really getting to know them and in a way that
she's not trying to take them away.
No.
You're going to split that up pretty good.
Yeah, as much as I can. I mean, I tour all the time, so that's hard. But
well, here, I'll just tell you what's going to happen. You're going to be dragged through a bunch of bullshit until you finally go, all right, how much is it going to take to stop this?
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. So you might want to get there sooner than later. Because
I know that was the whole thing. Is like this meeting I was going to do today. I'm like, I can't do this. I told my lawyer, like, I can't do this meeting. I'm going to be on a really cool podcast today, and I got to practice with my band. And he's just like, Lou, if we don't do this, you don't do this meeting today, because I'm leaving on a tour tomorrow. It's like, and then the court order is supposed to go through. I mean, it's like just last minute mind fuck.
There's no justice. Okay, whatever you think is right doesn't matter.
I know.
And the quicker you settle it, the less money, the less of your money the lawyers will get.
I tell you, the good thing, I mean, to tie this into what we were talking about, is like my relationship with my bandmates. Right. I mean, like, I got used to like dealing with illogic. I mean, like, logic has nothing to do with it. Either you want to work it out with somebody, and you have to do it on their terms to a degree. I mean, like, you have to say, okay, this is nuts, but if you feel this is what's happening, I'm going to acknowledge this from you, and I'm going to acknowledge that reality instead of fighting against it. I'm going to acknowledge it and allow it, allow it to the point where I'm not just completely destroying myself at the same time. I mean, that's the balance, really. Right? But it's
the big bad part of the divorce thing is like the guy with whoever's got the money. That's it's all you're going to pay for her lawyer, you're going to pay for your lawyer, you're going to pay her what she needs, and it's like, if you can, you just want to at some point stop hemorrhaging the money, because the lawyers, like, really, it's in their interest to drag it out as long as possible.
I know, and they're doing a great job
at
in
that
respect. They're doing a good job. It's definitely entered, like, I remember these like funny conversations that my ex-wife had, or soon-to-be ex had, early on, which is like, yeah, let's just, this is going to be a mediation.
Right.
This is going to be good. I think we can do this. Yeah. It'll be best for the kids. It'll be good for us. Yeah. No court orders. She's like, oh, my friends are telling me to get a court order. I'm like, we shouldn't really do that. And she's like, I know we shouldn't do that. Yeah. Let's just kind of, we could probably get this thing wrapped up in maybe 2-3 months, before.
And now the friends have gotten in her head, the lawyer's gotten in her head. You're a monster. You have a Swiss bank account now. Yeah. You're like, you have millions of dollars that I don't know about.
Yeah, they want to. One of the great things is they want to have all my stuff appraised, all my instruments appraised. I am not, like, here's the thing is, like, I'm not a collector by any means. I use the barest minimum of what I possibly can use. And I've always done that just because I channel my money into my house, into my home, into my children. And that's what I've always done. I have maybe $3,000 worth of equipment, which is pretty modest, a handful of guitars. They want to pay $2,000 to get a guy to go in and appraise my stuff.
What it's so
that I'm going to pay for.
It's so fucking ridiculous. Just ask her. Just say, how much does she want? How much does she? Can I?
Oh, I know what she wants, and that's too much.
All right. Well, there you go. Then it's gonna.
No, I mean it's too much. It's devastating. But
yeah.
We'll figure. I don't know. A year. I just keep thinking it's like a year from now, the lay of the land's going to be a little different.
Yeah.
And
your catalog does pretty well, right?
Yeah. Record sales aren't what make my money.
It's touring.
It's touring. It's totally touring. And then odd royalties, I guess. It accumulates. I mean, it just sort of
Yeah.
But it's so random.
It is. You just don't know.
Like, I got a $2,000 check today. What?
Yeah, where did that come? Yeah.
Okay,
that's great. It's like every day's Christmas. Where'd that come from?
I mean, thank God.
Well, when you did the tour, like when you regrouped with Dinosaur, what was it? 3 years ago? 4 years ago for that first?
8
tour?
years ago
already.
Mm.
I mean, was that? Did that change everything personally and mentally for you around all that stuff? Did you get closure? Did you think the band played well?
I did. I totally.
Whose idea was that?
It was Jay's manager's idea.
Oh yeah, someone's like, "Hey, we can make some money."
Yeah, because they were, Jay had finally worked and sort of perfected the reissues of the first 3 records, and then said, then his manager was like, "We got to do a reunion tour," and Jay was not into it. And then, Jay had terms for, how much money he wanted out of it. And I actually called Jay and said, dude, seriously, do you really want, X amount of money? I mean, that's not fair, Yeah. It's like, I don't care. I don't want to do this anyway.
No.
And then I was just weighed with okay, do I just say, oh, well, then I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Or do I just go, I'm going to do it because I want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I want to do it personally. I want to play the songs again. I want to be a part of this.
And you did get some closure? You did?
Yeah, I said, okay, I'm going to be a part of it. And I did it. And I'm glad I did. And,
And you guys are better because of it?
I think we're better because of it. I think the cool thing about what I do with Jay or the relationship I have with him is it always feels like it's evolving in some way. Even though it's glacial, and sometimes almost totally imperceptible, and sometimes it seems to be moving backwards. But in general, it's this is moving. This is still moving towards something.
We get older, I mean, even when I talk to him, and I don't know him from anybody, but you could tell that he had some sort of cosmic shift in his life, and now you're gonna get one.
You're gonna get it.
You're at the beginning of a life-defining bit of business.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the point.
What?
So, the life-defining. Yeah, I wanted something to.
And how do you feel about the new record? I mean, is it different for you? Is it what did you do differently, and how does it compare to some of the older stuff in your mind, creatively?
Creatively, it reminds me of just the older stuff because we did it all ourselves. I had a practice space over in Glendale that we recorded all the basics in Glendale. My space, and did it all ourselves. Jason is the engineer, totally self-contained. I had a friend of mine mix my songs, but I mean, and then, of course, going through all the stuff that I'm going through too, it really focused me on finishing. It just immediately, bam, 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 all this stuff just started coming together. The words started to, whereas before I'd be like, what's the next line? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I can't even be honest with myself, because if I'm honest here, I've got to be honest to, you know what I mean? It's the honesty part of it, I was really stuck.
That's a little bit a theme with you, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I can't remember. The other thing is I can't remember my lyrics unless I know unless I'm singing something that I'm going through or that I believe in or that is happening, because I just can't.
It's not immediate. You can't just.
I can't access it in my brain. I don't I just can't. If I'm making stuff up or trying to be clever, it's or writing from someone else's point of view, I just can't remember the lyrics.
I'm the same way. Everything's very immediate for me, and I did a show that was I did a show about my divorce and separation during the separation.
Nice.
And it was so clear that I needed to have the conversation publicly in order for me to fucking process it.
Yeah.
Is that the same way with you?
That is like that.
Because a lot of people are like, why don't you play that song, or why don't you do that bit anymore? It's because I'm fucking done. I can't go back there. I mean, you have distance, and sometimes songs, and I imagine, some comedy transcends the feelings that are immediate, but to really get behind it, it's not the same. What was that? What did you feel like when you were playing those Dinosaur songs? Was it just fun to be part of it?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I love Dinosaur songs.
Yeah,
I love them. I mean, I love the records. You know,
it's sort of heartbreaking that you guys have the relationship you do.
I don't know. I mean, I spend a lot of time. I spend too much time. I think about all of it a lot. So
You do? Like in what sense? Regrets or?
No, not regrets. I guess I'm always trying to like. This was something. I mean, it kept me with my wife for so long, 25 years. It's like I'm always figuring
You've been with
out
her for 25 years.
25 years. I'm always trying to figure out ways.
Was she the girl that Jay was jealous of initially?
Yeah, she was my first. You know.
Really?
Yeah. So I spend a lot of my time when things go wrong. I spend a lot of my time figuring out what I did wrong.
Yeah.
And figuring out ways around it, or figuring out just trying to get in and trying to understand it. Because sometimes if someone presents me with something that I find unacceptable, it's like, well, what do I do? Like, just carry this around? Like, that's unacceptable. You know, or do I try to understand what this other person is going through
Right.
and maybe that's how I'm going to gain closure. They're not going to give it to me.
Yeah.
I mean, most people are just not going to hand that to me. They
No.
don't have the ability to do that. Most
Yeah.
people do not have the ability
It's
to
on-
give you closure for things, you
Yeah,
know? And
it's
like,
on you. You got to take
it's kind of
your...
up to you. Exactly. It's up to me to do that. So, I mean, and that's a lot of ways with my relationships with Jay, you know, Eric Gaffney, John Davis, my wife,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, that's a like
those
that's
are I spend my time
Yeah.
thinking into it, getting into it, figuring out what I need to do to either make it go further but, you know, now that I'm getting older, it's like, fuck, you know, some things I'm like, you know, with Eric Gaffney, it's like, I'm not doing that. It's too far.
Yeah.
You
Well,
pushed me too far.
there's an interesting thing in the if you get into like the recovery model, you know, of not drinking shit.
Right.
There's that inventory thing.
Right.
Like there's this thing where it's designed to sort of enable people who have somehow destroyed their life or ruminate on whatever that damage was, and you just sort of like you make this big list of people and you say like how they wronged you, and then you put your part in it, and then you put like, you know, what part of me does that affect, and then you get this big long diagram list of exactly how you're an asshole or how you're not, but you know how to take responsibility for that shit to just say like I did what I could. I'm contrite. I apologize. This is what I did in that. If you don't want to accept my apology, I did my part. That's it. And then you after that, you either choose to ruminate or not.
Right. Yeah.
It's hard to cleanse that shit. But I mean, I know that fucking struggle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you sound pretty good. I mean, I don't know you, but you sound all right.
No, I'm living with my girlfriend and going on tour and playing music with my friends.
Awesome.
So
you want to play some music? Do you want to do a song?
Oh yeah,
too?
okay. You ready?
Is that a what you call that's a ukulele?
That's a baritone ukulele. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I am ready.
Okay. They've got the calves of champions. They greet the warmest way. They are the dads, the man ones. They've got some money saved. Another kind of classroom, another shade of fear, another door you shove through until you conquer your fear. To let my children go, feel it themselves to hurt and grow. That's the hardest thing I have done, and haven't even done it yet. Thought I was wise, averted my eyes, avoided the light, went head down through it. I was wrong, I've gotta be strong and hold my head up high. Failure is a state of mind. Back in Massachusetts, in my familiar role, afraid to make decisions that had to test my soul. The girl wanted to live here, and
and I followed my love. I came to California. Enough was never enough. Let my children go to feel it themselves, to hurt and grow. That's the hardest thing I have done, and I haven't even done it yet. Thought I was wise, averted my eyes, avoided the light, went head down through it. But I was wrong, I've gotta be strong and hold my head up high. Failure is a state of mind.
Awesome, man.
This is an old song. The last song was a new song.
It's all a matter of soul and fire, infatuation, a true desire, the thrill of discovery, divine intervention, cruel, cruel change, and the pain of rejection. And when you walk away, think of all the joy we share. If you decide you need me, I'll be wondering if I care. Not there to soothe your soul, friend, tender friend. I think our love is coming to an end. King Persuader, congratulations. You share her heart, you bought her soul. Princess Confusion, come to me again. Saying goodbye was so much fun. And when you walk away, think of all the joy we shared. And when you walk away, feel the freedom in your heart. There's joy in letting go. You're free to find a love apart. 'Cause when I lose control, I need a kind, forgiving friend. But I think our love is coming to an end. Know our love is coming to an end.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Sounds great.
Oh, good.
I love that little thing.
Yeah, this thing's great.
Thanks for talking to me, Lou.
No problem. Thank you for talking to me.
All right, that's it. That's the show. I hope you enjoyed that. I fucking love when musicians play in here. It's fucking beautiful. Intense guy. Great conversation. It was great to hear the other side of some of that Dinosaur Jr. stuff. Go to WTFpod.com for all your WTF pod needs. Check the merch section. Things are happening. Ceramic mugs should be there. Regular mugs should be there. Cap bowls, T-shirts, all that stuff should be there and available to you. Some posters there. Some of those posters are single printings, but we got most of them. Will Ferrell on Monday. Ken Marino this Thursday. I'll be on the Pete Holmes Show tonight also. Oh, I went to the gym. I'm back in. I'm back. I did a day. So that could either be back in